the movie's coming out.
Yeah, a new Super Mario Brothers movie, and perhaps like maybe it'll be like the definitive screen Mario, because like we haven't had Mario is for my money, just like this like massive character. Think about all the sort of imaginary worlds you spend time in as a consumer of pop culture, and like I might have spent more time in Mario's world than like anybody else's.
I'm right with you, Tom. Like playing all the games, like the McDonald's toys, the cartoon, like for my money, Mario has been with me like as far back as I could remember.
I've always been a Mario fan.
I've always been a Goomba.
Because it's centered around games, it is narrative. It does have it, but like the narrative is kind of secondary to just sort of like the game nature of it, and the keeping you engaged, and the pressing buttons and adrenaline and stuff. So we never really got like a definitive official narrative. You can sort of like an overall narrative. You can find a narrative in there and you can piece things together, but we never got like here's the story of Mario. Like we got the Bob Hoskins movie of the 90s, but it was such a departure.
Yeah.
They did an SNL parody where they kind of like merged The Last of Us with the Mario movie. Kind of did that. And like this original Mario movie is kind of like the template for these SNL parodies where they strip down and kind of figure out how to put this fantastical stuff into like more of like a real world gritty setting, and this would like you could almost run this at this Bob Hoskins one as like an SNL parody of like, they're making a Super Mario movie, here's what it's going to look like, and that's actually what it looked like.
And early in the movie, when they're in New York City, you could like just show some clips of Mario and Luigi like hanging out and driving around, and you could tell somebody it's a lost Scorsese movie.
Yeah,
they're like,
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's the
or they get like a mushroom pizza and then like fold it like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, it's like
it's the two of them walking to the beat of Saturday Night Fever.
Luigi's as a paint can.
I always felt like, you need I always wondered why they didn't make more attempts at a movie, because again, like I think Mario is like one of the big like global, characters, like bigger like who's bigger than Mario,
The biggest.
And so now, like, finally, we're gonna get this like definitive kind of movie that has Mario in that sort of Mushroom Kingdom world.
Yeah.
That is so central to his narrative. But I always, I felt the need for like a Mario narrative, and I actually made like some attempts at one. I always had this idea of like, if I ever write a novel, it's gonna be like a James Joyce, Ulysses, or Finnegan's Wake kind of like deconstruction novel, but about Mario, where it's going to be like this super serious Mario novel where it's all all these stuff, and
that sounds so good.
And then like at a certain point, it was like, okay, why not? Like I don't write novels, but I make comics. Why not make a comic of it? So I started making a comic of it, and I called it Mystery Object, and it was kind of like I was trying to come up with like a narrative for Mario that was all sort of like literary allusions and visual puns and things like that, and it was like Sperm Aria Ouroboros, and if you say those, it's Sperm Aria Ouroboros, it's Sperm Aria Ouroboros, all these kind of like a very pretentious Mario narrative. So it's like I kind of started doing that, and it ran as like a web comic for a while, and then I kind of moved on to other things. But so that was like my attempt, and just having experienced all these Mario games, I'm like, what is the story that's being told to me? So like for me, it was kind of like I first encountered him with Donkey Kong. Like I remember when Donkey Kong was like a new game, like it was like this new arcade game, super hard, but it kind of had this story. And he's got to defeat Donkey Kong, and he's got to rescue Pauline, and then there was like there was a Donkey Kong Saturday morning cartoon. You remember that?
Yeah. When I saw Mario in the Donkey Kong game, it was at Sideshow Pizza, and it blew my mind. I was like, it felt weird because I seeing him out of like the Nintendo game.
Yeah.
I was like, this is weird seeing him in the
So
New
so
York
you encountered like the Super Mario Brothers Mario first, and probably like Super Mario 3, right? Or
No, it was
Super Mario 2.
No, Super Mario the first one.
The first one. And then
because like with the first game, I can't remember if it felt like originally with the Nintendo. I think it might have been the Duck Hunt Mario combo
the one that comes
game.
with the NES. So if you have an NES, at a certain point, you're gonna have that.
That's what I had. Yeah. And then we never owned Mario 2. We rented it.
Yeah.
But I remember
that's me too. Yeah.
When we played it, I was like, this is different. Something's
is
weird.
Yeah. I mean, I still bought into it and enjoyed it and played it to the end and all that kind of stuff. But it, and playing it now, there's like all these games that I like, beat when I was a kid, and now I play them and I'm like, how the fuck did I do that? Like I must have been, it was like a different person did this, because like playing Super Mario 2 and there's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is one, because I beat the Ninja Turtles game when I was a kid.
Incredible.
And I was playing it recently, and there's that swimming level where you're swimming underwater, and it's like
how did you do
so
it?
hard. And then
Mega Mans are so difficult.
The Mega Mans, and then Super Mario Brothers 2. Like, I was playing it recently, and I got as far as there's this point where you like pick up this key, and then this like angry sun starts this angry circle face starts chasing you relentlessly as long as you're holding this key, and I just could not get past there. But like when I was a kid, I played the whole game all the way through, beat it. So I don't know how I did it, but like I've done some reading about the history of Mario, and it's really interesting. Shigeru Miyamoto, the sort of the sort of like he's like the just like the god of Nintendo. Created Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda. Just one of the people responsible for turning like the video game medium into like a real art form and stuff. And so Donkey Kong was like his first big his first kind of big break. Like they had done a game called Radar Scope, I think it was called.
I didn't know
and,
that.
And it's this like shooting game, super dry, super boring, kind of like along the lines of what video games were in the early days, of just sort of this like sci-fi thing. But it was a flop, and so they needed to come up with something quick to sort of convert these machines to like get a hit. And so he had this idea. He wanted to make like a Popeye video game. Like he loved Popeye, and he thought it would make like a perfect video game. But then they couldn't get the rights to Popeye from King Feature Syndicate. So what he did was he deconstructed Popeye. So he's like deconstructing Popeye. And so what he did was he abstracted Popeye. He's like, okay, I'm going to figure out what Popeye is and write it down in words, and then create something that matches those words but doesn't, match like the image of Popeye. So he's like, okay, Popeye is middle-aged. He's not handsome. He's working class. He's sturdy. And he's got like this like sort of iconic kind of like working class kind of job. And so writing those things, and then that's how he creates Mario is like those things.
That's perfect.
You relate to that description that Miyamoto, right?
Yeah.
Now and then he extended it to the rest of the setup. So it's like the villain, like he looked at Bluto, the villain, and he kind of looks like a big gorilla. And you'd even like, in the 30s or whatever, or the 20s, you'd describe him as a big gorilla.
You think Bugs Bunny might be delivering that.
Yeah, you gorilla. Go pick on someone your own size, you big gorilla. And so he made, the villain in Donkey Kong like a literal gorilla. Instead of Bluto, he made like a literal gorilla. And then Pauline is like, just, like the
Princess
olive oil,
Peach.
well, just the olive oil kind of thing, just kind of, drawn in a way that does not, violate copy, made her a little different. And you put all this together, and it does kind of have this like 1920s, 1930s kind of feel to it, and
it makes sense.
And then the King Kong thing, and so created, one of the earliest instances of like video game artistry, with that.
It's so awesome. Like, it's all making sense now.
Yeah.
Because like if you didn't know that background, you're like, where are you coming up with like a plumber from?
Right, exactly. And then he had like he wanted sort of he in his idea for like a Popeye game, there'd be like some spinach involved. You'd get the spinach, and then you'd have these sort of temporary superpowers that you could And so that was what the hammer was in Donkey Kong. You grab the hammer and then
it's your spinach.
Yeah, and you're destroying the barrels and things like that. Donkey Kong was a huge hit and stuff, and then eventually Nintendo was able to get the Popeye license, and he made like an actual Popeye.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We got to check that out.
Yeah, the Popeye arcade game is a classic.
Wow.
You never
played it.
Oh, I played it all the time. I loved it when I was a kid. Yeah, so much fun and great artwork and animation. And then Donkey Kong arcade game was so hard. Like I could not get anywhere in it as a kid.
Yeah.
But I did have it for the Atari, which was like
cool.
way more forgiving. You know, so I played that. And so then there was like Donkey Kong Jr.
I never got to play Donkey Kong Jr.
That's the sequel. And all of a sudden, there's an inversion to the story. Now, you know, at the end of Donkey Kong, Mario has captured Donkey Kong. And now Mario's the villain of the game. He's the villain.
Interesting.
Donkey Kong's in a cage. Mario's like cracking a whip and stuff.
My God.
And then you're Donkey Kong Jr. You're Donkey Kong's son. And you have to rescue your dad.
That's interesting to put Mario as the bad guy.
Yes, very interesting.
That's intriguing.
And it stuck with me as a kid. It stuck, you know, like this change of allegiance. Like you go from being the guy, the hero, and now the guy that you were the hero is now the villain, and you're this like even more relatable, this like cute little like monkey character who's trying to rescue his dad from this evil guy, you know.
Jesus.
So yeah, and so it just added this like really interesting complication to the story and to the character, and so I wanted to like address that in my thing, like what happened to Mario to make him do that heel
push him
turn,
over the fucking edge.
Exactly, yeah, and especially like as a kid, because you kind of relate to animals a little more and stuff, and like it's just like, come on, Mario, what are you doing,
fuck
dude?
this plumber.
Yeah,
and I think I mentioned in our we did we did another previous Mario episode because the 2020 was the 35th anniversary, and I mentioned and my dentist he had a game, the original Game and Watch.
Yeah.
And I played a ton
of the Donkey Kong one or the Mario.
The Mario
Game
and
one.
Watch.
Yeah, that's a good. That Mario Game and Watch is a good one. Where it's like Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I know.
There were a bunch. There was like a Popeye, or there were Game and Watch, and then there were like larger ones that were like full color and stuff. But there were Popeye ones. There were Donkey Kong ones. There was Mario Brothers ones. There were Super Mario Brothers ones. And then there, you know, and like a bunch of them, and there'd be like multi-screen ones and Donkey Kong Jr. ones.
Ooh, those up. I'm gonna have to look those up on the net tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's like emulators where you can play, you know, those.
Because the dentist that Game and Watch was there, and I'm like, I hope I have a cavity so I can play the Game
right,
and
yeah,
Watch.
you're like chugging Three Musketeers.
Trying to get there to play the Game and Watch, and we ton of Mario, you know, on the Nintendo, and but then Mario 3 was a game, like the first Mario game where I was like old enough to see the hype and see it coming.
Be there
for it, and my parents would watch. There'd be like a news article, like a something on the news about Mario 3. They're like, this is the biggest, and I'm like, are you guys paying attention? Mario's coming. And then the Wizard with Fred Savage, they're like, a new game.
Right. Like, for me, like, there was Donkey Kong 3. And Donkey Kong 3, all of a sudden, it's not Mario anymore. Like, Mario's out of the series, and you're this guy, like, Donkey Kong has somehow gotten into your greenhouse, and you're this little... This little you know, florist or whatever, and you're like shooting DDT at Donkey Kong and stuff. So there was that. So the Mario story at that point Mario's gone elsewhere, and what he went to, like up until that point, Mario is a construction worker. He's not a plumber. And then they came out with Mario Brothers, no Super, just Mario Brothers came out at the arcade game, and that's where they introduced Luigi. And Mario, the construction worker, has a brother Luigi who is a plumber. And Luigi needs help, and they even had a commercial to go with it for like the Atari like home version of it, and it was like it was the theme song to Car 54, but with new lyrics, and it's like this little like Luigi. You can find it on YouTube and stuff. But there's this little like Luigi guy, like it's live action. This Luigi guy running through the sewers, and it's like something's coming up the plumbing. Poor Luigi's in the bind. There's a fighter flies. Holy cripes! They're all coming out the pipes. Mario, where are you? And then and then Mario. So it's like Mario's brother Luigi, who's a plumber, needs help from Mario. So Mario comes to help him. But then from there, it's like Mario's a plumber, So again, in the story of Mario, that's how he becomes a plumber. He didn't start out as a plumber, but he kind of joins up with his brother Luigi.
He just switches trades.
Yeah, exactly.
He's in the one union, and they're like, you can't switch over until you pay your dues, Mario, right?
But he's got a brother in the union,
yeah,
so that's a big help.
Greases skids in there,
and he maybe it's like an era where like construction is, like some like downturn in the economy, not a lot of construction, but like there's still plenty of plumbing work. So he jumps ship, and then he's just a plumber from then on, and it's like it's never sort of referenced again that he was anything but a plumber. To where there is like a cognitive dissonance where you see him in Donkey Kong, and you're like, he's a plumber in there, right? He's a plumber, but he's not,
doing some Mandela effect kind
right,
of
exactly,
stuff.
yeah.
That's interesting. Like the game, they're it's during the gas crisis. They're going around siphoning gas out of, or there's like they have a board with a nail in it. They like step on it to puncture a gas station. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, so that's like when there is no official continuing narrative. Like you have to create that, and it's just like it was just telling me a story. This is just the story I'm being told, the story I'm putting together from these disparate pieces. And this is like before I ever started work on that comic. This is just like me as a kid, just trying to make sense of this whole thing. So then the next, twist is when Super Mario Brothers comes out, and all of a sudden, this guy who's in the pipes, and there's all these turtles coming out of the pipes in just Mario Brothers. Somehow they've found a pipe that takes them to this like Alice in Wonderland place of like psychedelic mushrooms that make you one pill makes you larger, one pill makes you small, all that kind of stuff. And then it just it felt like a quantum leap in games. Like I remember like going over my friend's house the first time I ever played this game, ever heard of this game, and I couldn't believe, like I felt that like it felt like maybe video games had sort of petered out, like I'd played my share of like Atari stuff, and it's like, and even arcade stuff. It just kind of the appeal. It just kind of it was getting same old, but then that was like, oh my god, this whole new like Vista has opened up.
My cousins had the Nintendo, and I remember the whole neighborhood was over at my Uncle Joe's where they had the Nintendo, and they had the Duck Hunt and Mario, and it was people that weren't ever interested in anything like that.
Yeah.
It was people, they were gathered around. I just can remember it like it was yesterday, like sitting on the floor, standing around, like looking at the Nintendo, wanting a turn on it. I'm like, why does Aunt Bonnie want to play this?
Yeah, she never wanted to play anything else. Like it is like I'd hear my dad's stories about like the first person in their neighborhood who had a TV, and how like everybody was poking their heads in and coming in the living room to like watch the TV.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what that was like for us. It was like, what
it was incredible.
You're just, and that like, cause I knew about Nintendo, like about the NES, and I had played, some games and stuff, but that there were the games I played, and they were really great and really fun. But when Super Mario Brothers, when I finally played that, it like blew my mind. And it's like, okay, this video game thing has legs. Like video games are here to stay. It was in doubt a little bit. And so that and then that's another interesting development, that now Mario is no longer this like earthbound, gritty sort of character. Now he's in this like psychedelic realm, this H.R. Puffin stuff, Wizard of Oz kind of realm, and then he basically stays there, for the rest of his career or the rest of his life,
The I never had a Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So that it's still magical to me, like all the SNES games, because my buddies, they had the SNES and I had Sega, and like Super Mario World, like it was awesome. Like,
yeah.
And
like for me, like the the first Super Mario Brothers was such a quantum leap. And then everything after that, as great as it, like Super Mario 3 is like just one of my all-time favorite games. But all of them, it was just kind of like, it was just sort of polish. It was like, okay, taking this thing and making it a little better. But that was the quantum leap. From like Mario Brothers to Super Mario Brothers. That was where it's like everything got turned on its head. And everything else was kind of like revision, the difference between Super Mario 2 and Super Mario 3, the difference between Super Mario 3, Super Mario World.
A variation on a theme.
Yeah, the only like quantum leap that I'd seen since then was Super Mario Galaxy.
Oh yeah, that was it's like the
yeah, where all of a sudden
planet.
it's like the Little Prince, and all of a sudden you're on these planets where you're navigating a sphere that is like not that much bigger than you are.
That's
and,
so cool.
And so when I played that kind of just changed the way like my brain was shaped. Like no one in the history of our evolution has ever had to like navigate a sphere. Like a sphere at a scale where you can recognize it as a sphere.
That's one of my like nightmares, to be like on like navigating, like put on that like a mini sphere.
Yeah, it did. Like I started having like dreams about it. It did. Like it felt like I would like again like my brain was developing a new like area of like this sphere navigation. And there's certain levels where like they push that, where it's like you have to chase this rabbit, and the rabbit's really fast, and the only way you can get it is like you realize that like you don't just like try to follow it in a direct, you think about meridians and try to head it off at the pass, that you can like figure out where it's going to be heading based on its meridian, and you get on a different meridian and try to like meet it there.
I might need to, instead of doing some Sudoku puzzles, I might need to try to work my brain with that to keep it sharp.
Well, there's all this geometry and stuff and this math that they like, try to teach you in school that's like very complicated, but you get like real world application of that kind of stuff, and a real world like and an intuitive understanding rather than like a logical understanding, an actual intuitive understanding of those things.
And that's Galaxy.
Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. I mean, you might as well skip to Super Mario Galaxy 2 because it got a little better. And then I haven't played the Super Mario Odyssey.
I haven't played that.
I haven't really spent any time. Like I've spent like minimal time with a Switch. So I've like never played that one. So I don't know if like from what I can tell, again, it's just more polished. Like it hasn't had like a quantum leap.
Because I had Mario Brothers, Mario 3, and then I had Mario Land 2,
I love
Game Boy.
I loved the Game Boy Super Mario Land. And again, it was like, because Super Mario 2 came out, and it was like too different. It was too different. And then Super Mario Land was kind of like, it was different, but it also had some of the classical elements too.
Super Mario Land 2 for the Game Boy is like
it's really good. Yeah, and like the there's like there's the Wario games for the Game Boy are really good too. And like I loved like instead of the fireball in Super Mario Land, you had this like super ball that would, like, just bounce in every direction. And then there'd be these like shooter levels where you'd be in like a spaceship or a submarine or whatever. I like the Egyptian motif.
Me too. I thought that was really cool, like right out of the gate in the first level.
And you fight the Sphinx.
Oh, so cool. And
great music. The music from that game is like classic. And I noticed when they made that Super Mario Run app, they incorporated a lot. Because there was like this, like for the Egyptian level, this was like this like really funky kind of like like and that's in the Super Mario Run music. They have that.
They always had some great great music for the Super Mario Bros. Theme. Like my band back in the day played that live. Well, that's such a. They always have great theme. Great theme for it. Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64, but the one
that was one I missed, and I know like Mario 64 is like a formative experience for like anybody who had. I just didn't have the N64, but
love it. Well, you know what? I'm gonna have to find mine and bust it up. We can play some 64.
Yeah, because I skipped that one. I had here's all the machines I had. I had the Odyssey 2. I had the Atari 2600. I had the Intellivision. I had NES. I had Sega Master System.
Awesome.
I had Super NES. Then I had, and then that was like as far as I went as a kid, and then I kind of sat out N64, but then I had the GameCube.
See, that's the one I'm my next system. I need to track down a GameCube because I want to play Mario Sunshine.
Mario Sunshine's pretty cool. I had, and they also did reissue remixes of the Zelda games from the N64 on the GameCube,
that's awesome.
which is pretty cool.
I didn't have a Wii, but I was in the mix for when that came out.
Yeah, I have a Wii also. Like the Wii is like my newest console. That's like the most recent console I have is a Wii, and then I'm always tempted to get the Switch. I just haven't.
Me too.
And I feel like by the time I get a Switch, it's like something else.
Something else is coming down the pipe. I have the Game Boy Advance SP, like the smaller flip up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had the Game Boy. I never went further than like the regular Game Boy.
I've got the original.
So I had the original. And that was one, I think I told the story where I brought like a big jar of pennies
I remember.
to the store when I bought it.
To buy it?
Yeah, and the lady was
so pissed off.
Don't ever do this again. It was at Bradley's, a retail chain that no longer exists. Yeah, so I had that. I never had like the Game Boy Color. I did get the Super Game Boy, which was this plug-in for the SNES where you plug this cartridge in and then you could plug Game Boy cartridges.
Oh, I love
into
that.
I
you could play
that.
them on your television.
Yeah, you can play it on your
that
TV.
was so cool.
With like limited color. Like it would add like a little bit of color to them.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't, I don't think you could play Game Boy Color games on it.
Oh, the Game Boy Color, I forgot about that. There was the video camera you could get for that. I remember being at the store and being like, what the...
I used to play the Virtual Boy. I used to
Me
play
too.
that. I used to
Me too.
play that in the store.
Same
you know?
here. At
Yeah.
Hills, I would go to Hills.
Yeah, and play the Wario game. That was like the best
Love
game on
it.
it. But there was like a sort of Star Fox style 3D shooter that was kind of cool.
That was the one that was mostly in the stores that I played. And I remember going to KB's, and they had like a million of those. Just they were trying to like give them away.
Yeah, because it didn't, for whatever reason, it was like the wrong technology at the wrong time. People weren't into it.
But now they're going for so much you can't.
Yeah, for the same reason.
But
yeah, like you can pick up one of those, but then if you want to pick up one of those and the Wario game, good luck. Super Mario Brothers movie with Dennis Hopper as Bowser, King Koopa. Like the one thing they nailed in this that I was kind of shocked is like exactly like the game is the little walking bomb guy.
Love those
that's
things.
Perfect. I would love to have one of those, a little wind up walking bomb guy.
Yeah, we just like have it going around.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, a toy of that must exist, like a perfect toy, because
It's got to.
there were all those things. I don't know if you remember them. There were these little. I think Tomy put them out, but they were these little. It was around the time that video games were first starting to hit, and so they came up with these wind-up toys that were kind of like video games. It was bumbling, boxing, strolling, bowling, and it would be this like little bowling alley you'd set up with these pins, and then you'd have this little wind-up walking bowling ball that would go.
Dude, that's
and you'd have to
amazing.
aim them and walk, and then you'd have these like wind-up boxers and a little boxing ring, and you'd send them against each other.
Dude, I'm gonna track that down. After you told me about Mangalore,
Yeah.
I have that in my queue to get.
Mangalore. You have Mangalore in your like Amazon wish list.
Yeah.
So some fan of the show is gonna buy you Mangalore. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, like, you know, when I was a kid in this, like, I skipped this movie. Like, I did not see it when I was a kid. I was like, this is not, you know, this is too far from this. But looking at it now, they look pretty good. Like in those like full outfits, they look pretty good. They make a good Mario and Luigi. I don't know why. Like, you know, John Leguizamo had the mustache for Benny Blanco from the Bronx. I don't know why he doesn't have it for Luigi in this. He does. He looks really, really, really young in this. Like he looks, you know, like a teenager or something.
We've got a little.
Yeah, how's that for a treasure? Yeah.
It's a blast. This ain't no game. Here it is.
Yeah, they didn't like the wizard leaned into like they weren't going to change anything of the the Mario Brothers. They leaned into exactly what Super Mario Brothers was, Super Mario 3. And and kids were like way into that. But then with this, they like were kind of like, we don't want to just, we want to make it something that like, somebody over 13 might want to see.
They're like, Mario's cool or like edgy.
I mean, this movie is due for a reappraisal, and again, like I've never seen it. Like we got it playing here with the sound off. I'm kind of seeing little scenes and stuff, but I'm liking what I see. Like now that I got all that, now that I got all those preconceptions out of the way a few decades ago, and now that I know that I think like by the end of the month there's an actual like Super Mario Brothers movie that seems to deliver what I'm looking like Mario in the sort of Mushroom Kingdom.
We got to go see that.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a review of that.
Yeah, I think they're showing this at the New Beverly, I think.
Okay, all right. When we do our New Beverly simulcast.
Yeah, when we're get some popcorn. We're in the lobby of the New Beverly. Like,
poor Bob Hoskins. This is like one of those things that like, all these guys like in the 90s and the 80s would do these movies where like I'm doing this for my kids. Frank Langella playing Skeletor in Masters of the Universe, and then the movies come out, they bomb. And then they take their kids to see them, and their kids could not care less. It's like, Dad, you ruined Mario.
Or he does an interview for this, and they're like, how do you feel about playing a character who stars in a video game? And he's like, this is based off a video game. He doesn't
yeah. My dad would have made a good Super Mario. He just would have had to grow a mustache, but he would have made a good Super Mario. But I probably would have given him shit if he was in this movie.
My dad has his mustache.
Okay.
He still has. He's had it my whole life. Mm-hmm. I think he shaved it once, and I was like, I was distraught when he shaved it. Yeah, his mustache is even thicker than Mario's here. Mm-hmm. I have a nice. I got a good one going here, but I got the full. I can't pull the trigger on just the stash. I always thought these things were like creepy and weird.
Yeah, I mean it is kind of a gross some gross elements here. We could play the Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
If you want to do a Mario sequel or do a live action Mario, you got your guys right here.
Yeah, when we do a live show, we should dress up like the Mario Brothers.
Yeah, the Total Recall cabaret show will be dressed as the Mario Brothers.
I'm dressed as Luigi. Yeah. I'm like, life is a cabaret.
To the tune of Elvis Costello's Radio, we do Mario. Mario! Ba, ba, ba,
Dude,
ba, Mario! Ba, ba, ba. What's the thing? He's like, I just can't do this here tonight. 1, 2, 3.
Oh,
da,
yeah.
da, da, da. Ba, 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 ba. Mario!
Dude,
Mario!
Yeah. Because that was on SNL. They were supposed to play one thing, and then he's like...
changed his mind at the last minute, made TV history.
It's like,
Mario! That's part of our live act. Hey, if anybody's looking to have us come out to your town or to your local venue, we got the Total Recall show on the Total Recall Road show.
Yeah, we can come. We're gonna do our live take our show on
that's
the road.
That's some of the great stuff you'll see. You'll hear us sing the Fall Guy theme, except where he's fucking all the Golden Girls in order, in age order, and we'll do our Mario song parody as well.
In our crowd shows,
and you're just scratching the surface there. Get in touch. At the show
comments.
In the comments, get in touch. We'll come out to your venue.
I can't wait
if you can meet our honorarium.
Yeah. And also our rider too.
Yeah, we have a very a very stringent rider.
There's like a brandy glass full of brown M&Ms or like
Yeah, we got to figure because like that M&Ms thing is kind of tired, so we got to think up like the 2023 version of that. It's all red fruity pebbles. I'm Tom Scioli, author of I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and there's a pre-order link in the show notes below where you can pre-order that book, and you can also, at that same link, pre-order Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, in softcover.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
Follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
You can join my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search my name, Tom Scioli. And if you join the Patreon, you'll have access to the full archive of various comics that I've done. and also new stuff as I post it there.
You can follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show.
And yeah, we'll see you in the warp zone.